The lecture hall of the Celestial Academy was nothing less than magnificent. Holographic constellations floated overhead, each star burning with simulated brilliance. Hundreds of species sat in tiered seats, scaled, feathered, furred, and chitinous, representatives of the most advanced civilizations in the Orion Spur. They were the elite, selected to learn diplomacy, strategy, and history from the galaxy's finest minds. And today, for the first time in Academy history, a human was among them. Elias Kael sat halfway up the amphitheater, leaning back with a relaxed posture utterly at odds with the nervous stiffness of his classmates. His black Academy-issued uniform looked unremarkable, but his expression was anything but. There was a faint curl at his lips, an almost mocking smirk, as though he found the grandeur of the place amusing. The other students noticed. "Look at him," hissed a scaled Arxen 2 rows up, her frill twitching. "He doesn't even take notes." "He doesn't need notes," muttered a feathered oryx, clicking his beak. "They say humans barely pass the entrance trials. Their homeworld is backward. No fleet worth mentioning. No psychic aptitude. Why the Academy accepted him, I'll never know." Whispers rippled through the chamber. At the front, Professor Hryzel, the six-legged Vathian strategist whose campaigns were required study in half the quadrant, tapped the floor with his staff. The echoes silenced the crowd. "Today's lecture," Hryzel announced, his voice reverberating through translation implants, "is on predator-prey dynamics across civilizations. A crucial foundation for understanding why some species rise to dominance while others remain forever subordinate." He gestured, and a holographic display appeared. Predators, sleek, toothy, swift, contrasted against prey. Herbivores, herd dwellers, timid-eyed. Predators, Hryzel said, are the hunters. They control resources, dictate fear, and inspire respect. Prey may outnumber them, but their instinct is to flee, to submit, to survive rather than to conquer. In interstellar politics, the distinction is no less vital. He paused, letting his compound eyes sweep the room. "Now," he said, his mandibles curling in what passed for a smile, "let us test our understanding. Identify yourselves, predator or prey." The Arxen immediately hissed, baring her teeth. "Predator, of course. My ancestors hunted across volcanic plains." The oryx puffed his feathers. "Predator. Talons and speed define us." One by one, the students answered, most claiming predator, some humbly admitting prey. The tension grew as the professor's gaze finally fell on Elias. The human leaned forward, his smirk widening. "Predator," he said simply. Laughter broke out across the hall. The scaled Arxen nearly fell from her seat. "You? Predator? With those blunt teeth? No claws, no natural armor? Your species is barely out of its cradle." Another student, a crystalline Shyrix, chimed in with a voice like shattering glass. "Humans rely on tools, not instincts. Tools are a prey's crutch." Even Professor Hryzel's mandibles twitched with amusement. "An interesting claim, human. Perhaps you would explain what makes you think yourself a predator among such formidable peers." The hall grew quiet again, waiting for the human's humiliation. But Elias didn't shrink, didn't blush, didn't even flinch. Instead, he smiled wider, and his voice carried with steady confidence. "You all think predators are defined by teeth, claws, or speed," he began. "You think it's about biology. But predators aren't defined by what nature gave them. They're defined by what they choose to do with what they have." He stood, slow and deliberate, his eyes sweeping the room. "Take humans. Weak? Maybe. Fragile? Sure. But we're relentless. We hunt animals larger than ourselves across open plains for days, until exhaustion kills them. We build weapons not to defend, but to end. We sailed oceans on wooden ships, fought wars with fire and steel, reached space on rockets strapped to our backs, all before most of you left your homeworld's gravity wells. The Arxen hissed again. Bravado. Words. Any prey can boast. Elias leaned on the desk, still smirking. Do you pray domesticate predators? Do you pray turn wolves into dogs, make them guard our homes, fight at our sides? Do you pray take the deadliest elements of their world and make them tools? Fire, steel, gunpowder, nuclear fission, we bent them all to our will. Prey runs. Predators adapt and dominate. Silence. Even Professor Hryzel tilted his head. You speak boldly, human. But dominance in war is one thing. In diplomacy, it is another. How does your species fare when the battlefield is words, not weapons? Elias's smile turned sharper. We conquer that too. Ask any alien diplomat who's tried negotiating with a human. We'll shake your hand with one grip while rewriting the rules with the other. We trade like predators, every deal tilted, every word a weapon. And when diplomacy fails, he shrugged. History shows what happens when you push us too far. The room was utterly still. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Professor Hryzel tapped his staff again, voice carefully measured. Fascinating. Perhaps, he said, we have misjudged. The middle, the test. Later that week, the Academy announced a field simulation, a survival scenario. Students would be dropped onto an uninhabited moon, each given basic supplies, and told to secure territory until retrieval. It was meant to test both cooperation and predatory instinct. The students paired into groups quickly. No one sought the human. Elias, unsurprised, walked alone into the transport shuttle. When the simulation began, chaos unfolded. The Arxen immediately staked high ground, shrieking territorial claims. The Oryx and his wingmates patrolled the skies. The crystalline Shyrix carved shelters in caves. Elias? He vanished. For 2 days, the others barely noticed him. They boasted of their dominance, marking territory, hoarding supplies. But then strange things began happening. The Oryx patrol found their food rations missing, every last one. The Shyrix discovered that their cave entrance was collapsed, sealing half of them inside. The Arxen woke to find crude traps scattered around her camp, some triggered, some waiting. And always, in the distance, someone swore they saw it. A human silhouette, watching from the shadows. On the 5th day, panic spread. Groups turned on each other, accusing rivals of sabotage. Alliances crumbled. By the 7th day, exhaustion and paranoia ruled the moon. And Elias? He strolled calmly into the retrieval zone, a satchel full of stolen rations slung over his shoulder. The instructors were waiting, astonished. The official tally flashed across the holograms. Resources controlled. Human, 68%. All others, divided remainder. The hall buzzed with disbelief. Elias simply smirked. Prey doesn't hunt like that, he said. The ending, the lesson. When classes resumed, no one mocked Elias anymore. The Arxen avoided his gaze. The Oryx clicked nervously when he passed. Even the crystalline Shyrix kept their voices low. Professor Hryzel, however, watched him with new respect. Class, the professor said, addressing them all. You came here believing predators are born, not made. That tooth and claw alone grant dominance. Yet one of your peers has demonstrated otherwise. The human's advantage was not physical superiority. It was willpower, cunning, and persistence, the ability to bend every circumstance to his favor. That is the essence of a true predator.